Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're just gonna have a conversation. We're gonna sit back, relax with a glass of wine, and just talk about some of our favorite fall palettes, or specifically my favorite fall palettes, but please let me know in the comments below what your favorite fall palettes are. Let's see if we have any great minds think alike moments. Let's just get going with this because there's a lot to cover. I have a lot of what I think are fall themed palettes that I want to talk about, and there are almost 20 in here, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, my top 7 or my top 10. It was so hard to choose though. So we have almost 20, but again, this is just my opinion. These are all my opinion. These are fall palettes to me. Also, just from what I own. There are a ton of other fall palettes out there, but I just don't own them. I will go ahead and leave links to all of these down below, so go ahead and check them out if you don't already have them, and if you already have them, fantastic. Go have fun. All right, first on the docket, we have, oh no, I hate opening this one because there's a stupid little brush inside, but it is the Dose of Colors Cutting Edge palette. I always forget the name of this palette. What you saw there was me remembering at the last possible freaking second what this was called. But yes, this is the Cutting Edge Dose of Colors palette. It is this beautiful, like, grungy green color scheme that I absolutely go nuts for. I love green eyeshadow so much. And then with this pop of, like, it's almost like a mustardy green, but then you also have this like gold shimmer and then this coppery tone in the middle. Ooh, I'm so excited. I actually just got this in the mail today, so I'm really excited to start using it. It's beautiful. I am so glad I purchased this. It was between this one that I was thinking of getting or the Kaleidos, I don't remember which Futurism palette it is, but it is the grungy green one, and they looked too similar for myself to get both. So I chose this one because I wanted to try a new formula, because I have a lot of the other Kaleidos ones, but this one I wanted to try because I've heard really good things about the Dose of Colors formula. Next, we have the Odin's Eye Alva 2 Mini Sky palette. This one has a pop of purple in it and a lot of these warm brown colors. And these shimmers in the middle here are absolutely gorgeous. One of them is a duochrome. It shows white when you first open it, but it does shift blue, purple. But yes, you have these beautiful brown tones, this one, and this one. This one's a lot, they're all really warm. What am I talking about? They're all really warm, but this one like is more kind of on the purple side, like the purple mauve tone, rather than these two are definitely like, this one is a brown and this is like a gold. And then you have just that pop of purple, because I don't know about you, but I love purple in the fall. I absolutely adore purple in the fall. So for that reason, this one is on my list of wonderful fall palettes to own. Next on the list, we have the Melt Cosmetics She's in Party palette. I absolutely love this color scheme. It is so vampy and plummy and gorgeous. And these I love Melt Cosmetics. Their formula, not necessarily the easiest to work with, but it's definitely nice. Once you get the hang of how their shadows work, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. And specifically, this palette just screams fall to me. Just these burgundy tones. Burgundy in the fall is my color. I have so much burgundy stuff. I usually I have a look that I go for, and it's my burgundy turtleneck wool sweater with my burgundy shawl put over top of it and a black suede pant and these like high-heeled boots. Black high-heeled boots that is just, I feel like an Eastern European vampire when I dress like that. And paired with this palette, perfect. Those are my perfect fall vibes, especially paired with a dark lipstick. Peak aesthetic. Next up, we have one that I got recently and I've only ever used once, but I absolutely love it. And this can be worn in so many different ways. This is the Alamar Cosmetics Spanglish palette. I always forget the name of this palette as well. I'm just really not good with names. But yes, the Spanglish palette, and this is what she looks like. This is what she looks like. We got a ton of shimmers in here and some beautiful, beautiful mattes and this like pop of pink. This color right here, this dark orange, is what makes this palette so much of a fall theme for me. Like, just putting that one in there is just, It screams fall. It screams fall. You put an orange in there, a dark orange like this, and I'm just like, this is a fall palette. This is a fall palette. But then you have those like that sparkly orange and that sparkly red right there. Ooh, pretty. And then that light brown with the pink. Chef's kiss. This is a beautiful palette. If you want to see a look that I did with this, check out my previous BoxyCharm for September, the one where I unboxed this. I created a look in that video, so I'll link it down below. Or I'll put like a little like pop-up thing right there. Next up, we're moving into ColourPop for a little bit. We have, first up is the Anna Frozen 2 palette. Now, there was a lot of, not necessarily controversy, but I found like there wasn't, these palettes, this one and the Elsa one, were not received that well from what I saw, but I honestly really loved them. Like the color schemes for both of the palettes are spot on for both of the characters, and I found these super easy to use. The only one that I kind of had an issue with was this purple, but at the end, like, even though it took a little bit of work, I still got a really beautiful look out of it, and I was really happy with how they performed. The only thing that I don't like is this pressed glitter in the middle, because I'm never going to use it. I do not like pressed glitters, especially because ColourPop's pressed glitter formula is not biodegradable. But this orange, this like yellow orange, is a dream. It is probably my favorite shadow in this whole palette is that orange, and that orange paired with that purple is so good. So good. And this gold shimmer in here is very unique. I do not have a gold shimmer like that. Then you have this like kind of opalescent white shimmer that is a duochrome. It shifts like purple or pink or peach, I guess. I'm not sure if I can see it here. It shifts peachy almost. But this is a fantastic fall palette. Like I find myself wanting to reach for it almost every day since I got it, and I have to convince myself to try some of my other stuff because this is just so nice for fall. Next up, we have probably my favorite ColourPop palette that has ever existed, only because of the theme. No, it's because of the colors. It's because of everything about this palette. It's the Little Ray of Sunshine palette. It's sunflower themed. Sunflowers are my absolute favorite flowers. I'm obsessed with them. And yellow is also my favorite color. So everything about this palette when it came out was just screaming my name. And just like the embossing, I love that it does not have a mirror in here. I love that the packaging is cardboard. There's no pressed glitter. It's all mattes. Like, there's nothing to not love about this palette, and the color scheme, these like gorgeous mustard tones with that bright yellow in the middle and these like darker browns it's fall. It is fall. This palette is just screaming fall. I love it so much. Next up, we have a bit of an unorthodox one, and you might be surprised to find this on the list, but it is the ColourPop Coast to Coral palette. You like looking at this, you wouldn't think that it's a fall palette, but when you go in with it and you start using these bottom 3 shades, it really deepens out a look and makes it look more fall toned. And you can definitely like keep to the muted side and then add these darker shades in order to keep it more on like the muted fall like side rather than going kind of summery, because the only shade in here that is more summery to me is this pink right here, this like bright coral. But you can always go in with that one and then deepen it out using one of the 3 bottom shades, because those ones are quite like a lot darker and a lot more muted. So you can definitely achieve a fall look with this palette, and I love it. It's so pretty. I didn't expect to love it so much for fall, but I do. It's just because of those bottom few browns just makes this palette more fall toned. The next one is a new one, and I just reviewed it in my last video, but it is the Beauteous Cosmetics Nudes palette. This one is very berry toned. So you have these gorgeous berry tones along the bottom and then a little bit more mauvey berries on the top. And then you have this splash of yellow right here that will instantly brighten up your look if you use it on the inner corner or even under the eye along the lash line. It just adds that pop of color and makes your eye look like a sunrise or a sunset whenever using either the bottom row or the top row. It's just gorgeous. Or you can just use the bottom or the top row or whatever you want to do. There are 2 pressed glitters in here, and that's these 2 right here. But I'm not mad at it because of how well the other mattes perform and how inexpensive this palette is. So just the fact that there's 2 pressed glitters in there that I'm not going to use, it's not a big turn off for me. Yeah, I love this palette. I've used it once so far, and my genuine reaction when I put it on, and then I put that yellow in the inner corner was like, oh my god, my eyes are like a sunset. Like, actually, they looked like a sunset, and I'll put a picture up of my, like, Instagram look that I made, but seriously, it looked like a sunset, and I was so happy with the look I made with this palette. We've talked about a lot already, but there's still so many more to go through. Next, we have the Ace Beauté Vintage Dawn palette. I know some people have a problem with this formula, but I honestly have not. I've found such an easy time blending these. I've had such an easy time creating looks with this. Specifically, this cactus, this green color, and I know I said before, I'm just so drawn to greens. This green color and this blue color are the reason that I bought this palette. This dew color I've learned to love a lot too. This is amazing, this shimmer. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like, all of the colors in this palette are beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I love it so much. I love it to pieces, this palette, because again, yellows, greens, those are my colors. I love yellow and I love green. So put them all in a palette together, and I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna use this, and it just screams fall because of the oranges, the reds, the browns, this green. The blues are the only ones that aren't really, but you can make it work. So yes, Ace Beauté, you created something so beautiful here, and I'm just so happy to own this. Another Ace Beauté palette, we have the Classical Paradise, which is actually quite similar to the Vintage Dawn palette minus those two blues, but we have a bit of a lighter green in this palette that actually is a really great companion to the darker green there. Like, I've used them together before. So this one I would say is a great one to have to accompany the Vintage Dawn palette. It's not quite the same, but they're pretty similar. So you can get one or the other and achieve similar looks, or you can have them as companion palettes. But I absolutely love all of these colors. That green is the winning shade for me. Again, green is I love green. These yellows are really pretty. This is such a light and just fairy-like yellow. This is such a fairy-toned yellow, this sunflower shade, and of course it's named Sunflower because I'm obsessed with sunflowers, so of course that's the shade I'm gonna gravitate to. But and this silver is to die for, because it's like, it almost looks like a brown, but it's not. It's like, it's something super special. It's not quite silver, it's not quite bronze. It's really just something all its own, and it's one of the most unique like eyeshadow shades I've ever seen. It's one of the most unique shimmers, at least, that I've ever seen. And yeah, just yellow, green, brown, red, super fall toned. Next up, we have another weird one on the coral train. It's the Juvia's Place Nubian 3 Coral palette. That's what it looks like. For me, it was those dark kind of browny coral colors, but also the pops of gray. The gray in there made me think, oh, is this maybe a winter palette? Because I gravitate towards more gray tones in the winter, but those like burgundy, coral, dark reds, and the light brown colors kind of made me think more fall tones for this one. And this one I find can be a really nice companion to the Costa Coral one. If you want to use any of the shades from Costa Coral, but then darken it up with a gray instead of one of the browns that's in the Costa Coral palette, that could work really, really well. Or similarly, if you use one of the browns from the Costa Coral palette, you can go in with this brown shimmer in here to really darken that look up. So yeah, either or, fantastic for fall. Okay, next up we have the Alter Ego Goddess palette. This one I wasn't sure if I wanted to recommend because I am in Canada. They do not ship to Canada, but I used a shipping service called ShipIt2 to get this one, and like it's quite a lot more expensive to use that service, but I just wanted this palette and another one that I'll show you later so much that I bit the bullet and I did it. But yes, this is the Alter Ego Goddess palette. It is a dupe for the Natasha Denona Gold palette. And honestly, I wanted this one more than the Natasha Denona one because I'm a sucker for Greek mythology. And just seeing this and seeing the shade names, how they're all named after different goddesses, I love that. I love the theming of this. And that's kind of what sold this for me over the Natasha Denona one, regardless of price. But I wished if Natasha Denona had had these names in this theming, I would have bought the Natasha Denona one. I would have spent the however much money and gotten it over this one if the themes had been reversed. Yes, I love this. And some of the winning shades in here are Cassandra and Valkyrie. They look gold in the palette, but they have a green shift to them. And you'll see in the swatch that they're just amazing. Here, let's see how I can swatch that for you. Can you see that, like? And then Valkyrie. Valkyrie is, yeah. Both of them have like a green sort of shift to them. And then another one that I absolutely love, this matte. It's this Athena color right here. It's like this dark mustardy tone. Look at that. Look at that mustard. I just love yellow so much. This palette is just beautiful. It screams fall to me with the dark teals and the shimmery green and the mustard tones all over in there, and I love it. This is very fall, very, very fall. But again, if you live in Canada, this is hard to get, but not impossible. This is another one from ColourPop, and it's one that I was kind of hesitant to put in here because of the controversy surrounding it, but I do find it's really nice for fall just because of the colors. But the Sandstone palette, this is the original packaging. I got it right when it, like the first batch that came out, because I just love the colors so much. But the reason this was so controversial is because the palette patterning on it is cultural appropriation. Like, they basically appropriated Native American artwork, and they're in the process of redesigning this whole packaging because there was just no thought kind of put into that, which is like, I hate to see it. I just really hate to see that. When you're that big of a company and you have that much money, like, how can you not, like, they've done so many partnerships at this point. Like, I would have loved to see them partner with a creator that was Native American to like have this specifically curated amazing palette that perhaps you could pair up with a charity of sorts as well. Like, that would have been a great move on their part, and I would have felt really good about contributing to that. Right now, like, I love this palette and it's so pretty. Like, the colors in here are absolutely gorgeous, and I will use this, but I don't necessarily feel good about it, if that makes sense, just because I know that not a lot of thought was put into the naming of the shades of this palette, plus also the artwork. I'm happy that they're redesigning it, but that is the controversy surrounding the palette. Regardless, the colors in here are super fall themed. Like, I love the shimmery greens. Like, both that one and that one are absolutely beautiful. All the brown tones, and I'm not really a neutrals person, but having the pops of green and yellow in here just really draw me to it, because, like, if it's an all neutral palette, I'm just gonna get bored and I'm not gonna use it. But yes, and then this, like, it's almost a purple, like almost a plummy purple sort of shimmer, but it is bronze at the same time, if that makes any sense at all. But yes, this whole palette I absolutely love. It's super beautiful. I love the color story. I just wish that they'd put more thought into the creation of this palette. Next is another one that I just got in my BoxyCharm for this month, and you'll see it in my BoxyCharm video. I'll link that up above here or down below or wherever. But this is the Ciate London New England Editor Palette. I always forget what this one is also called, but this is a New England themed palette for fall, and it's inspired by all of the autumnal tones that you see in New England. I wouldn't know because I've never been there, but yes, this is specifically autumnal themed, so I included it, and I absolutely love this palette. I love this palette. That's what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. I'm filming this right after I filmed my BoxyCharm video, so yes, this is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes. I used this tone, and this tone to create the look, and I'm super happy with it. It gives me some Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk vibes, like, for real. This color, I think this gold is the winner in the whole palette. Like, this, there's something about this gold right here that is just otherworldly, and it swatches so nicely. This is one of the, because there's a shimmer formula in here and a metallic formula in here, and I think this is one of the metallics, but this is just so special. Look at that. There's just something else about this gold that makes it my absolute favorite shade in this whole palette. And this green as well. Let me just start swatching all of them for you. It's not as dark as it shows up in the palette, but you can build it up. But it's so nice. It's so nice. But yes, I absolutely love this palette, and it really does give me fall vibes. It's a little bit brighter and a little bit more colorful, especially with those pops of blue in there and the pink. But it's like, it's fall if you still want color in your fall tones. If you don't want it to be just brown or yellow or green, if you want some pops of color, this is probably the fall palette for you. This is amazing. I love it. And for my colorful soul, this makes me just super happy. Okay, we have 4 palettes left to talk about. This one is the other Alter Ego palette. This is the Artemis palette. This is a 28 pan palette. And this is a dupe for the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. It has the same cream to powder formula as the Natasha Denona one does. So if you don't like cream to powder formulas for your eyeshadows, you probably won't like this, but it's just so pretty. It's just so pretty. And again, with this one, the reason that I bought this one over the Natasha Denona, or besides the price, is the theming. Because again, Greek goddess, Artemis, and you've got some absolutely gorgeous shades in here. I love this palette. You have your greens, you have your reds, you have a pop of blue if you want them, you have your orange, you have your red, you have your dark black, you like gold, and this is such a special palette. Like, I love the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, like, enough already, but I was so happy to be able to get that at an affordable price with this palette. Plus the theming is on brand for me, so this just makes me really happy. This just makes me really, really happy. It's one of those palettes that I open it up and I'm just giddy looking at it, and I'm like, ooh, the potential, the possibilities. So yes, this one is a great option for the fall. If you're looking for just one palette that you can kind of create every kind of fall look that you want, this is the one that I would probably recommend. But again, if you don't live in the US, this is a lot harder to get. So for the last one, for the fall specific palettes, this is another ColourPop palette, and this is the ColourPop with Kathleen Light's So Jaded palette. There are all kinds of shades in here. You have greens, you have blues, you have reds, you have yellows, you have pink, you have like literally everything, orange. But they're all kind of like darker, more muted colors, so you can easily make a lot of fall looks with this. Like this one or the Artemis palette, if you're someone who just wants all of your shadows in one, it's one of these two that I would recommend. This one if you want something more colorful that includes your blues, that includes your pinks, that includes your purples, this is the one to go for. But if you want something that's sticking more towards those like greens and orange and red and gold, then the Artemis palette is the one for you. But again, this one is the more colorful of the two, and because it's all like jade themed and like mineral and stone themed, it's gonna lead into the next category of palettes, which is Halloween themed. And I wanted to include them in fall because Halloween is in the fall, so at least in the northern hemisphere, Halloween is in the fall. And stones and jade and all of this kind of like witchy stuff makes me think of Halloween, so and then going into our other Halloween themed palettes, first of all, and this is probably like aesthetically, this one is my favorite palette that I own. This is the Melt Cosmetics Muerte palette that they came out with for holiday last year. I was able to get it this year, quite recently, like a few weeks ago, but this is the color story. It is the most beautiful color story I have ever seen in my life. This is my favorite palette just aesthetically in my whole collection. I absolutely love it so, so much. And I just want reasons to use this palette because it's just so pretty. When I first saw this palette, it reminded me, there's a picture that I have on my Pinterest, one of my Pinterest boards that is specifically to do with color palettes. And it's this picture of a rose surrounded by this greenery, and it's like this specific color palette. But whenever I think of that specific like Pinterest board that I have, that is the color story that always I think about first. Whenever I think of any kind of color scheme, if somebody asks me what my favorite color palette is, that is the first thing that comes to mind. And this is exactly that in a palette. And it's an amazing palette. It's just beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my damn life. I love the mints, I love the teal, I love the burgundy, and I love the red and the yellow. There's just nothing to not love about this palette. The only thing I have is that they're all so dark. It's such a dark palette, which it makes sense for the theming, but I don't always gravitate towards dark eyeshadows, so it's my only thing with this palette, but I'm so glad I have it. It is the most beautiful palette in my collection. This is not actually available anymore, but I just wanted to talk about it because it's so pretty. I just wish I had the Vita one as well to complement it, but I'm not willing to go on eBay and try and get that shit, so no thanks. The very last palette that I want to talk about in our fall collection palette highlight reel that we have going here, it is the witchiest of the witchy palettes. It's the Moon Spell, the Lunar Beauty Moon Spell palette, and this, I absolutely love the packaging, I love the theme, I love everything about this palette. Just like, it comes out of this amazing foil, and the front of it is just, oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like, this packaging, this is, like, packaging wise, this is probably my favorite palette in my collection, just because it's 100% my aesthetic. Yes, you open it up, and then this is the color story. It is another, again, one of those interesting color stories that I've never seen before. It's super, the ColourPop did a very similar one to this recently with their Hocus Pocus collection, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's the Moonspell palette. Like, other than like the blues that are in here, I'm like, that's the Moonspell palette. Like, what the heck, ColourPop? This is the palette. It's so pretty. It works for fall, it works for Halloween because it's so witchy themed. All of the shadows are named after different witches in different movies and TV shows, and I absolutely adore this. I love it so much. I have to use it way more now that it's spooky season. You have your row of purples, you have your row of neutrals, and then you have your greens and your blues over here. If you're not a neutrals person, this probably won't work for you, but if you like color and you're missing color in your fall aesthetic, this one might be good. And that is it for my fall eyeshadow palette lineup. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. It helps my algorithm. It helps other people see it. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel if you want to. Hit that notification bell if you want to. Don't forget to comment down below. Let me know what your favorite fall palettes are. I really want to know. And if we have any similar palettes here that you think are great fall palettes as well, please let me know that. I want to know how great minds think alike. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.